Yeah,
What's up, everyone? Happy Football Friday. Happy Divisional Weekend. Not really, because all my teams are gone, so it's fine.
and one afternoon. And we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get there. A lot of news going on. I've been transfer portal's been going crazy with all the coaching moves. UFL dispersal super draft is going, and we also have free agency going on in UFL right now, and then of course all the coaching shuffling in the NFL as well. So, the two games on Monday after the show that we had.
Excuse me.
The Bills 31-17 over the Steelers. Knew both my teams were going to lose. Steelers, though, I had more hope for them. They were looking good. They got it within a touchdown. They got it to 24-17, and I was like, bro, is Mason Rudolph about to do this right now? And I think, unfortunately, it really was his fault that they did lose, because the red zone interception that he threw early in the first half, that was costly. As you know, 2-score game. Maybe if they score there, it's tied at one point, and then they are only down by 1 score on that final drive that they had. But it was a solid effort for the Steelers. Really shorthanded. Talked about their linebacker issues all year. No TJ Watt. They moved to 1-11 in TJ Watt's career without him. And I was fine with this.
Yeah, it wasn't shocking, but I think if you're a Steeler fan, you're looking at this and it's like, hey, we weren't blown out in a frigid environment against a team that's been hot for the past 6-7 weeks. You could take this, you can go into next season with a little bit of confidence, and just kind of roll with it. This is, Steelers looked awful. I mean, they lost to Cardinals and Patriots, and at that point, I think everyone kind of thought the season was over. But, I mean, you made the playoffs. You at least put up a fight against the Bills for a while. So, I mean, you kind of just have to just take your loss, walk away, and just be like, all right, it was not a bad season. I would guess you would say it's a successful season because you did make the playoffs. But, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really see the entire graphic or be able to listen to the sound when I saw it on the TV, but I know they did have a graphic on ESPN. I don't know what the year splits were, maybe since the last Super Bowl 45, that the Steelers were in. Hasn't been great. The playoff success has not been there for Pittsburgh. I think they've won a total of 3 playoff games since they last made the Super Bowl.
I think they made only one conference championship, and in that conference championship, they got blown out.
Right. So, I don't know. It's not Tomlin. That's what I was going to say. The rumors about him leaving are just stupid. We'll talk about his contract situation in a bit, but yeah. Mason Rudolph. Oh, and also, by the way, I hit a bet on this game. It was great. This is a lucky bet. Live bet plus 14.5 when they were down by 7, and ended up covering by the hook. But I say it was lucky because of that. I was like, bro, they're lining up for this Bass field goal. I'm like, no, they're going to lose by 17. And then Bass just shanks it left. I was like, let's go. But yeah, Mason Rudolph, 22 of 39, 56.4%, 229, 2 touchdowns, a pick, 2 carries for 16 yards. Started off horrendously. Steelers overall, 21 zip in the first half early. Thought the game was over. Did a good job coming back to within one score. And Rudolph was a big part of that. Josh Allen, 21 to 30, 70%, 203, 3 touchdowns, 8 carries, 74 yards, a rushing score as well. Both of these games, both of my teams, the tackling was god awful. But like I said, again, Steelers regrouped. Their team got together and they really, for the most part, were playing well on both sides of the ball in the second half. James Cook led the game in rushing, 18 carries, 79 yards, 4 catches for 5 yards. Receiving wise, Pat Freiermuth led the game, 5 for 76 on 8 targets. Pickens, double-digit target day for him, 5 for 50, 11 targets and a fumble. And then defensively, I got to go with the big man, Ed Oliver, for the Bills. 1 tackle. It was a solo tackle for loss, pass deflection, 3 QB hits. Bills covered minus 12.5, over 39.5. The worst one, the Bucks, 32-9 over the Eagles. Again, this one, the Eagles were in it. It was 9-14 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
At one point. So yeah, it was 9-14 at one point, and then you see the final score. But yeah, I mean, again, the defense was horrendous. The tackling, God, I don't know how many times I yelled at the TV because there were missed tackles. It was felt like every play for the Bucks on offense there was a missed tackle for the Eagles. So yeah, and I mean the offensive line also couldn't protect. Bowles was bringing blitzes on every third down pretty much, and they were effective. No one could get open besides Devontae Smith either. So especially, it really hurt. I think it. I don't know if it would have been a different result necessarily, but I think it definitely would have been a different game for Philly on offense had Julio not gone down early, because Julio got a couple of early targets, got some yards, especially on the one. He got like 20 yards. And then he went out of the game with a concussion. So he was the guy that had to step up in the place of AJ Brown, and then he goes down, and it's like, bro, like 6 is the only guy. So yeah, it was not great.
Yeah, it was a tough Monday for you, brother.
The Penguins won at least. The Penguins won.
Nice.
Yeah, this was just one of those games where you could tell one team came in kind of expecting to lose, and they did. You know, it really just felt like the Eagles were just running on fumes, kind of expecting this, and it just happened.
Yeah, and the secondary was so bad. James Bradbury needs to get cut like yesterday. I don't care what his dead cap hit is. Like, he's got to be gone. Baker, 22 of 36, 61.1%, 337, 3 touchdowns, 2 carries for 16 yards. Jalen Hurts, 25 of 35, 71.4%, 251 touchdown. Rashad White led the game in rushing, 18 carries, 72 yards. What was really weird, and they kept talking about on the broadcast, is like, dude, the Eagles came out running the ball, and they were super effective. And then for some reason, Brian Johnson stopped calling runs. Nick Sirianni stopped calling runs. I was like, bro, like, what are we doing? Like, we gained like 5 yards per carry on the first 3 runs of the game. And then we just cold turkey to stop running the ball. That was something that really was like big question mark for me on the offensive game play calling side. But Devontae, monster game for him, and he did his job. Like, he had to be the focal point in the receiving game, and he was 8 for 148, 12 targets. Kate Otten also weirdly had a big game, 8 for 89 on 11 targets. And defensively, I am going to go with the old man, Eagle defensive end, Brandon Graham. 5 tackles, all of them solos, a sack, 3 tackles for loss, and a QB hit. An old man that says he's not done yet. He says he wants to return for next season. Bucks, some ungodly reason they were underdogs, plus 3.5. I don't know why I didn't slam that one. Under 43.5. College football news. Y'all ready to play a game?
Woo!
EA Sports is finally going to release EA Sports College Football this summer. July 12th, 2024 is the date. So make sure you get your pre-orders in and stuff. So
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I'm so
You gonna
like
do a live
torn.
stream?
Yeah, oh,
Little round robin
Football
tournament.
Addicts Anonymous college football fantasies. I mean, franchises. Let's go. Connected franchise.
Quickest to rebuild Jackson State, or just like just some like random Idaho.
I'm going to Kent State.
yeah, I am in on the Akron Zips.
Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Coaching carousel. Alabama, they head coach Kalen DeBoer getting his defensive coordinator from not very far away. Hiring South Alabama head coach Kane Womack as the DC there in Tuscaloosa. And South Alabama has their new head coach. It is their offensive coordinator, Major Applewhite, promoting him to head coach, former Houston head coach as well, as far as I remember. An interesting Ohio State, Jimmy. You got a new offensive coordinator. Aren't you happy?
Fuck.
Patriots offensive coordinator Bill
I am
O'Brien
not.
taking over the offense in Columbus next year.
If the end of the Rose Bowl is any indication, I am not happy about this hire. I mean, what this is, I saw a tweet earlier, and it's just the most obvious thing in the world. Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick and Nick Saban at separate points in his career. For both of them, he's won 0 championships. Like, that's unacceptable. Like, you worked with Bill Belichick and Nick effing Saban, and you can't get 1 championship in your NCAA or NFL? Give me a break. Like, I'm not a fan of this hire. I think this really does not move the needle offensively for Ohio State, especially with them losing guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. and I can't remember if Ibuka's leaving, but also Kyle McCord's leaving.
I don't believe so.
No, I think
I can't remember.
Yeah,
No, I don't think so.
no,
think
he's
he's
must be
back.
saying. But yeah, I'm not excited about this. I think Bill O'Brien is a fucking fossil, and he's gonna run the offense like it's a dinosaur. Like, give me a break. I'm surprised he knows what a forward pass is at this point. I mean, I'm not super stoked about this. I think this is a step for Ohio State.
I feel bad for Will Howard. Again, I have to hate Will Howard now. I loved Will Howard at Kansas State, but now that he's at Ohio State, I have to hate Will Howard. So, but they have pieces: Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, Will Howard at quarterback, Ibuka, and I forget who else they got at receiver. But thought they replaced Cade Stover at tight end, but. Transfer portal. USC wide receiver Mario Williams. He's going to Tulane. Miami wide receiver Brashard Smith. He's going to SMU. Arizona quarterback Jaden DeLora. He has committed to Texas State, or as I misprinted in the script, Texas State. Yeah.
2 A's.
Double A.
Got it.
Alabama linebacker Sean Murphy coming off a big Rose Bowl game, even in a loss. He's going to Florida State. Auburn quarterback Robbie Ashford. He's committed to South Carolina. Heading into the portal, Georgia State wide receiver Tyleek Williams. Texas State quarterback TJ Finley. So there's the ensuing move off the Jaden DeLora Texas State commitment. And I'm super hyped. Jaden DeLora and GJ Kinney's offense is going to be fire. Like, it was already pretty good with TJ Finley last year, but DeLora is total spread kind of quarterback, like they ran it at Arizona. So super hyped. Jimmy's Texas State Bobcats.
My guys. The
Um,
Fun Belt champions, I hope.
Oregon State wide receiver Silas Bolden. He's going to Texas. Dude, Texas, as much as everyone, like all my SEC friends, make fun of Texas and Oklahoma and like say that they're going to get wrecked next year, which I think Oklahoma might. Texas, though, they're loading up. Like, they've got some dudes in the portal, and already they're not losing a ton. Bolden, though, definitely going to help in one area that they are losing with Jordan Whittington, Xavier Worthy, and tight end Jatavian Sanders all into the draft. Tennessee edge rusher Tyler Barron. He originally committed to Ole Miss. He is now flipped to Louisville. So Louisville's another one. Jeff Brom just eating up transfer portal this offseason. He's got a bunch of guys, and I think they're I think they're top 5 portal class for sure. I think Ole Miss is number 1, but Alabama safety Caleb Downs. So the Alabama exodus has started. I think 9 players so far have transferred or are in the portal. Him and left tackle Caden Proctor, both 5-star primo true freshmen this past year. Downs expected to go to Georgia, which, why not, right? Go Dogs. Proctor, the expectation for him is Iowa would be the place that he would go. That was the other school that was really in on him in his recruitment. Washington corner Jabbar Muhammad, he is starting his visit. So like I said about Texas, he's going to visit Texas. Also going to visit Alabama. And apparently Oregon is also going to be in the mix for Muhammad there. Arizona running back Jonah Coleman is in the portal. New Mexico State quarterback Diego Pavia, he has committed to Vanderbilt, so I guess I'm a Vanderbilt fan next year. Interested to see what Pavia can do in the SEC after a great year at NMSU. We'll see if his size matters because he's small. He's 5'10", I think. So it's his. And then Alabama tight end Amari Niblack. Guess what? Texas, hook him. He's going to be the replacement for Jatavian Sanders next year. So excellent get by Sark, replenishing the offense for Quinn Ewers next year. Draft declarations. This isn't really a draft declaration, more of a result. But Maryland quarterback Talia Tagovailoa is headed to the draft. He got his waiver denied by the NCAA for a 6th year of eligibility. And I kind of feel for him. He's going to the East-West Shrine game. He accepted his invite to that. But I kind of felt for him. I understood where he was coming from. His waiver was, I thought, substantiated. Because at Alabama, where he started his career, his true freshman season, he played 5 games, which you can only play 4 in redshirt, right? But the 5th game, he played 2 snaps. Like, that's just ridiculous that the NCAA didn't approve that. So I don't know.
Well, plus, I mean, I don't know. It feels kind of arbitrary. I mean, you got some guys getting approved for like 7 years. I mean, it just kind of feels all over the place.
9 years.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw that.
Miami player playing his 9th season in 2024. Oh, jeez. That's as many years as I will be in college after this semester. So, yeah. That's crazy. But yeah. We will see where Tua's brother goes in the draft. Senior Bowl. Mr. Nagy got a dog at the quarterback position. Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. accepting his invite to the Senior Bowl. So him and Bo Nix now both down there in Mobile. For the Senior Bowl, the coaching staffs were announced. All assistant coaches, of course, as they get elevated roles, try to put some guys out there and show what they can do in these elevated roles. So on the American team, it's the head coach, Titans assistant head coach, and defensive line coach Terrell Williams. Offensive coordinator is Patriots wide receivers and kick returners coach Troy Brown. Defensive coordinator is Browns safeties coach Ephraim Banda. And the special teams coordinator is Giants assistant special teams coach Mike Adams. For the national team, the head coach is Jets defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich. Offensive coordinator is Giants quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney. Defensive coordinator is Vikings pass game coordinator and defensive back coach Durante Jones. There you go, Jimmy. Vikings
All
coach
right.
getting in an elevated role, Durante Jones. And special teams coordinator is Saints assistant special teams coach Phil Galliano. UFL news, the UFL Super Draft went down last week. Notable players for the teams that are the guys that got selected. For the St. Louis Battlehawks, they got Gamblers linebacker Chris Garrett, Roughnecks linebacker John Daka, Brahmas safety Cameron Kelly, and Vipers offensive lineman Khalil McKenzie. My Memphis Showboats, they got Vipers linebacker Max Roberts. Showboats, that's supposed to say Breakers. Breakers wide receiver Lee Morris. Roughnecks corner Will Likely. Breakers kicker Matt Coughlin. Sea Dragons corner Antoine Brooks Jr. and Stallions defensive tackle Willie Henry. The Michigan Panthers, they selected 2 of their own in the draft. Former Michigan Panthers kicker Cole Murphy and punter Kyle Kramer. So they got their specialists back. San Antonio Brahmas, they got Guardians wide receiver Katie Cannon, Brahmas wide receiver Landon Akers, Roughneck safety AJ Hendy, and former Packers wide receiver Cody Crest. The DC Defenders, they got defenders running back Puka Williams Jr., Seahawks wide receiver CJ Johnson, Maulers defensive lineman Boogie Roberts, and defenders linebacker Anthony Hines. The Stallions, they got Steelers defensive back Madre Harper, and then they drafted pretty much most of their own guys that they already had from last season's roster. Stallions quarterback Jalen Morton, running backs Bo Scarborough and Zaquandre White, fullback Bobby Holly, and wide receiver Myron Mitchell. And then the Arlington Renegades, only one guy of note for them in the draft. They drafted Jets linebacker B.J. Bello. And free agency in the UFL, like I said, going on right now. Notable signings, the Defenders, they are getting linebacker Davin Bellamy back for 2024. They also signed the Michigan Panthers defensive tackle Robert Nkemdiche, former Cardinals first-round pick, played with the Jacksonville Sharks of the National Arena League in 2023, as well as being on the practice squad for the Michigan Panthers there. The Battlehawks, they are getting wide receiver Darius Shepard back for 2024. They also signed Hard Knocks superstar Jets wide receiver Jerome Kapp, former Kutztown Bear. Love my PSAC brethren out of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. The Stallions, they signed Falcons wide receiver and former Alabama wide receiver Slade Bolden. And the Brahmas, they signed Vipers running back John Lovett and Guardians defensive tackle Kavion Patton. NFL news. So it was announced after the Eagles game that Eagle center Jason Kelce retired. Not true. He hasn't officially retired yet.
The news was that he had told the locker room that he had intended to retire.
Right. But that I think was more just like post-game emotions, and because Travis Kelce apparently was asked about it. He said he's still got a lot of football left in him. So who knows? I don't know. I would not be shocked if the old men run it back one more time. That's Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelce, and I guess we'll include Lane Johnson in there as well, because those are the four pillars of the Eagles on offense and defense. But yeah, I would not be shocked if Lane Johnson's definitely playing this next year. Not shocked if the other three come back as well. For the Steelers, I mentioned this earlier.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I wouldn't be shocked if he came back. My guess is that if he does actually end up retiring, this whole thing was just trying to take away from Adam Schefter announcing it. Like, a lot of guys in the NFL, when it comes to their retirement, they want to announce it themselves. It's their decision. They don't want someone leaking it out to someone. So this definitely, to me, if he does end up retiring, this is mostly just to make sure Schefter doesn't take his thunder.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
He's going to pull a Tom Brady. He's going to come back just to spite him.
Yeah.
Honestly, looking back on it, kind of a baller move by Tom Brady. Just playing an extra year of football just to like spite a media member.
On the opposite side of the state, I mentioned Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. He's back. He's coming back for 2024. That's the last year of his deal. They've never re-signed him inside of 2 years. They've always done it prior to that. So it's kind of new territory. We'll see. But I think Mike's really, he's going into year 18 in 2024. I think he's really kind of taken a Ben Roethlisberger kind of approach to these last couple of years. Just, playing it by year. If he wants to come back, obviously the Steelers will have him. He's up there with the great coaches of their history, Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher. So yeah, he will be back next year. And they're going to be moving on with Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett will be QB1. They're going to bring someone in to give competition to him. And they are also going to hire someone outside the organization as offensive coordinator next year.
Like, you're telling me Mitch Trubisky is not enough of inside competition?
No,
Unbelievable.
I do not expect Mitch Trubisky nor Mason Rudolph back next year, even as well as Mason has played. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it just depends on, I think, what Mason's market is. If the Steelers want to compete in that market or not. The Cowboys, they are sticking with Mike McCarthy for 2024. That's the last year of his deal as well. I chuckled when I saw this come across the Twitter feed. Excellent job. Excellent job, Jerry Jones. I love it. Cowboys will be back in the playoffs in 2024, and will make a wild card exit once again.
Let's just keep spinning that hamster wheel down in Dallas. I mean, when you have an offseason where two highly touted coaches in both Harbaugh and Belichick are available, and you're right on the doorstep, and honestly, Belichick has made statements that make him seem like a perfect Cowboy fit. He wants to be on a team that's ready to compete, has decent players around, and you're like, no, we're going to stick with a guy that just hasn't won us a playoff game. Wait, have they won a playoff game? I can't remember. They did.
Yeah.
I forget what year was it. It wasn't.
I think they're 2-3 in the playoffs under McCarthy.
Yeah, but still no conference championships. I mean, again, just spinning the hamster wheel. I just don't get this. This just seems backwards. You got two coaches that are objectively just better than McCarthy available in both Belichick and Harbaugh, and you're backing out. I don't know. I don't get it. This is putting too much trust in a guy that hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2010, and I mean, has really just dropped the ball, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, what I will say is that I'm impressed that Jerry Jones didn't make a knee-jerk move, because while I could get, letting go of McCarthy for that performance, you have to make sure that you're able to get one of these other guys out there. Now, there's a lot of good head coaching candidates in this cycle, but you have to be sure that whoever it is going to make your team better and not reset the timeline. And for all of McCarthy's faults and stuff, that offense was humming a lot better this year than it was last year with Kellen Moore calling the plays, at least in the passing game. So I don't know. Maybe they feel like if they add a couple more pieces, they can get it on track. But yeah, I mean, I can see it both ways.
Well, I can tell you, granted, we don't know what the Cowboys' schedule is next year, but I can tell you they're going to be worse on defense. They're going to lose Dan Quinn. Someone's going to hire him as their head coach. And I just do not see the defense being better than what it was under Quinn. So, just saying. I don't know. I don't know. The thing is, 12 games again.
Yeah. The thing is, to respond to Logan, it's just Jerry Jones has the opposite problem, knee-jerk. He just sticks too much with certain guys. Like, remember Jason Garrett? Like, my God, this guy was a head coach for a decade, and he didn't do anything.
Well, they let him play the last year of his contract out as well, as McCarthy is doing.
And it got him nothing. It just got him nothing.
Well, maybe
I think
the issue is.
I think it's good that you're not knee-jerk.
Maybe the issue is higher in the owner's box.
I mean, it always has been. It just was covered up by the fact that Jerry Jones bought the team and then like immediately built a championship team in the 90s. And he's really just been coasting off that reputation for about 3 decades now.
Happy day. Indianapolis has signed a deal with the league to host the NFL Scouting Combine once again in 2025. So they hadn't previously had a deal in place past 2024. So now we know at least the next 2 combines will be back in Indy. And it's weird because like everyone that I know that has talked about the Scouting Combine loves Indianapolis. And the NFL is just, I think, they're just trying to make more money. Just like they're doing with the draft, moving it around every year. They're just trying to make more money. Like, oh, bro, you can host the Scouting Combine. You can bring in so much more revenue for your city. Like, no, you can't. Indy does it right. They have the facilities. Everyone knows where to go. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's not the draft. It's a glorified practice. You know, people aren't going to be like stoked to go, like be like, "Ooh, my city's hosting the Scouting Combine. I have to be there." You know,
right? And there
it is a glorified drill. Yeah, I guess so.
And there are fans that go to attend. However, the NFL doesn't make money off that. The tickets are free. Like
No.
you don't pay to go watch the combine. So yeah. Coaching carousel. We have our second head coach spot closing. The Raiders. They have hired interim head coach Antonio Pierce as a new head coach. 5-4 down the stretch in his 9 games at the helm. Raiders allowing the least amount of points per game, 16 in the NFL, and under him, and also they had the most defensive touchdowns with 4 in that time frame. So, yeah, Max Crosby doesn't have to request a trade now, and the players are really happy about this one until they miss the playoffs next year, and then they won't be happy about it.
I was genuinely shocked when I got this, update. I was like, wait, the Raiders made the right move for once? And yes, finally.
They listened.
A little bit of confidence.
Mark Davis listened to the players this time, unlike in 2020 when they all wanted Rich Bisaccia, Packers' great coach right now. And he's like, nah, we're going to get Josh McDaniels. So he made up for it this time.
Yeah, Pierce definitely did enough during that stretch, I think, to win the job. It's so hard being an interim coach. But just the way, over his span, he turned them into a winning team over his tenure, which is impressive for somebody to do. So yeah.
Yeah, and a part of that 5-4 record, 3-1 in division games as well. So that was a big part of that evaluation. For the Seahawks, they are interviewing Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka, and Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, who I, as well as a bunch of other people, think is the favorite. The Falcons, they're doing a big search. They interviewed twice former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh, Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, and Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. The Panthers, they're interviewing Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, who I would absolutely gush over that if that happened. Love it. Give me Slowick. And then Bucks offensive coordinator Dave Canales. The Commanders, they're looking at Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris and Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Chargers, Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel. That's the first one for him in this cycle. And how about former Stanford head coach David Shaw as well, getting interest. He interviewed for the Broncos head coach last year. The Titans also interviewing Coach Shaw, along with Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn, Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, Panthers offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, and then Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. Bears offensive coordinator, they're getting some interesting guys in there for the Bears OC job. They interviewed former Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman out of football this year. And I think the most intriguing one, USC senior offensive analyst and quarterbacks coach Cliff Kingsbury.
He's back.
Caleb Williams, Cliff Kingsbury, reunite in Chicago, ?
Yeah, I've heard a
In the
lot
tea leaves.
of I heard a lot of talking heads just being like, ooh, if the Bears hire Roman, they're sticking with Fields. If they hire Kingsbury, they may be looking to Caleb.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, it does feel like they couldn't be two more different, OCs. So,
yeah, Cliff's got the spread. Greg Roman's all about ground and pound. So, and I don't think the Bears really have. I mean, Herbert had a couple really solid games, 100-yard performances the last couple of weeks of the season, but it doesn't really seem like the Bears have the backs to run Roman's system. I don't know, though. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong.
I would say, though, if you do get Cliff, keep Fields, and then get MHJ, that's a pretty interesting offense if you can make it work.
No, Fields gone. Patriots. That's where Fields going, to New England.
The Patriots.
The Patriots defensive coordinator job under head coach Gerard Mayo. They interviewed Broncos defensive backs coach Christian Parker. He's 32. Gerard Mayo is the youngest head coach. He beat out Sean McVay by a couple months, I think I read that. And Christian Parker's 32, so he would be the youngest coordinator in the league if he was hired. And Saints linebackers coach Michael Hodges also in the running for that one. Speaking of the Saints, they are making changes. They fired offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael. So Saints going to have a different offensive system for the first time since 2009. Interesting. And they are interviewing Seahawks offensive coordinator Shane Waldron and Rams quarterbacks coach / pass game coordinator Zach Robinson. Sean McVay guys, they're still pumping them out there in LA. And Shane Waldron was a Sean McVay guy as well before he went to Seattle. And the Browns, they have fired offense coordinator Alex Van Pelt, so they have a OC opening as well in Cleveland. Was it really the offensive coordinator? Or was it a guy that wears number 4? What was the real issue?
yeah.
Plus, I don't know how they fired Van Pelt when Flacco was putting up 300 yards and 3 touchdowns per game coming off the couch.
No, my thoughts exactly.
For the GM carousel here, the Panthers, they are interviewing Chiefs VP of Football Operations Brant Tillis and Ravens VP of Football Administration Nick Mateo. Chargers, they're looking at Saints VP / Assistant General Manager Jeff Ireland, Colts Assistant General Manager Ed Dodds, and the Bears co-director of player personnel, Jeff King. IR, the Texans, they placed wide receiver Noah Brown on IR, shoulder injury. He's done for the year. Guys coming back, though. This is the time of the year to come back. The Chiefs, they opened the practice window for wide receiver Sky Moore. He has been ruled out, though, for this week. The Lions, they activated pass rusher James Houston off IR. And the Ravens, they activated wide receiver Devin Duvernay off IR. He will play tomorrow. Injury-wise, the Bills linebacker Terrell Bernard, he has an ankle sprain. Not sure of his status yet. For Sunday, they said they're going to take a look at him still tomorrow and today and tomorrow to see if he can go or not. And the Rams bounced out last week. Running back Kyron Williams, he had hand surgery, broke a bone in his hand during that game, so on the road to recovery there. Ins and outs, the Ravens. Corner Marlon Humphrey with a calf injury, he is out. So someone else is going to have to cover Mr. Collins there on the outside for Houston. And the Bills, safety Taylor Rapp with a calf injury, wide receiver Gabe Davis, PCL strain, and corner Christian Benford with a knee injury, linebacker Balin Spector with a back injury. They are all out. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs dealing with a foot injury, no injury designation. He's good to go. And finally, for the Chiefs, wide receivers Kadarius Toney and Justin Ross, both questionable. Defensive tackle Derek Nottie, wide receiver Sky Moore, like I mentioned, are both out. Couple signings. The Bills, they signed Browns punter Matt Hawk, former Bills punter as well, with Sam Martin dealing with a hamstring injury. We'll see if Martin's able to go or not, or if it will be Hawk punting for Buffalo. And then the Steelers, they re-signed wide receiver Denzel Mims to a reserve futures contract. Releases, the Ravens, they waived wide receiver Laquan Treadwell and running back Melvin Gordon. The Gordon one was in conjunction with Dalvin Cook being signed to the 53-man roster. So Cook will be playing this week for Baltimore. Playoff Lenny is dead. Bills, they released running back Leonard Fournette from the practice squad. So playoff Lenny is kaput for at least right now. The rest of the 2024 playoffs. And then the Lions, they waived linebacker Julian Aquara in connection with the James Houston activation. That is all of the news. Pick standings, yeah, bro. I said on the Monday show to Jimmy, like if the Eagles and Steelers both lose, I'm 0 for this week. So, and I was 0 for 6. You guys went 500. So Jimmy, you're still up 2 games after wild card week. You're the regular season champ. Still trying to hold on for that playoff champion as well. And so last week I went 0 for 2 on Lone Wolves. The Dolphins lost to the Chiefs. Steelers lose to the Bills. You both went 1-0 in yours. Logan, you got the Packers over the Cowboys. Jimmy, you got the Bucks over the Eagles. And once again, there's only 4 games, but once again, we all have at least one Lone Wolf, and every single game has a Lone Wolf in it.
Let's go.
Tomorrow, Texans at the Ravens. Jimmy.
I'm the lone wolf here?
Is lone wolfing the number 1 seeded Baltimore Ravens. Who are actually 9.5 point favorites. They are 9.5 favorites in Baltimore. I mean, you had to know I wasn't going to pick the Ravens. I
I
literally,
mean, that's fair, but
I wore a shirt today to school that said "Keep calm and keep hating the Ravens." So yeah, no, I wasn't going to pick Baltimore. Like, granted, I don't have as much of a
all right.
feeling about this game as I did. Was that last year or 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Or no, it was actually earlier than that. I think it was the 2020 season. Whenever the Ravens had the 1 seed last time, Tennessee came in and Derrick Henry kicked the teeth out of the Ravens defense. And I called that one. I had a feeling that
Well, I remember that because I
Yeah.
was with a bunch of college friends and we were watching that game. And it was right after the Vikings 49ers playoff game. I do remember that. And everyone in the room was rooting for Baltimore because one of my friends is a big Baltimore fan. And man, at the end of the night, you could hear a pin drop. We had to run to I think it was Steak and Shake just to have some comfort food to get over the loss. Because man, it was a quiet quiet house after that game ended. Because they were all dogging me after the Vikings lost, and man, I kept my mouth shut. But in the back of my mind, I was like, "You guys had this coming, didn't you?"
It is kind of trappy though, for Baltimore's sake.
It is.
I mean, are they going to overlook this upstart young Texans team or not? Not sure what the weather is going to be. I can check while Logan talks about why he picked the Texans.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna, I did the opposite of really what you're supposed to do in pick'ems. Like my entire sense of logic says the Ravens, but the feeling that I have is that when I was looking at who's left in the brackets and stuff, and I was like, if there's a team that I think could knock off the Ravens, I think it could be the Texans. I think they could go be on this tear. So I was like, we're going to do it. We're going to pull for the underdog just because I think there's an outside chance that it could happen. And I want to be able to say I called it. And if I get it wrong, then they were 7-point favorites. We
nine
shot
and
or
a half.
shot.
Yeah, 9.5. I forgot to change all the spreads because they have changed since I put the PowerPoint together. But looks like 27 degrees with 10 to 20 mile an hour winds in Baltimore on tomorrow. So it's not bad. I would take 27 degrees right now in freaking Milwaukee. Be a hell of a lot better than 12 with a negative whatever wind chill. Totals 43.5 for this one. I'm going under. 4:30
Really?
ABC, ESPN, and ESPN Plus. Yeah, well, yeah, cold and good defenses.
I don't know. Their offenses are pretty fun. I would go over on that one.
Go Pack, go Packers at the 49ers. I'm doing what I did.
Cover me shot.
Dude, I'm doing what I did last week. I picked the Cowboys to get the reverse jinx, picking the 49ers. They are also 9.5-point favorites. I'm picking the Niners to get the reverse jinx again. Let's go Pack.
Yes, sir.
And of course, Logan was going to pick Packers. So
yeah,
Jimmy,
I couldn't mess with the
Yeah.
vibes. Couldn't mess with the vibes. The vibes were too immaculate after the Dallas win. Look, I think there's an outside chance. It's all gonna rely on Rashawn Gary. I think if he's able to collapse the right side of that line, which is kind of the more vulnerable part of the 49ers O-line, and if he can get Purdy rattled a little bit like the Ravens were able to do in that game, and the way the Packers were able to do last week against Dak, force them into maybe a turnover or two, I think they have an outside chance. But I mean, look, if there's been a boogeyman for the Packers in the playoffs, I mean, it's been the fucking 49ers. So,
Yeah, I was about to say, just it feels like in the last 10 years, 49ers just see the Packers in the playoff and they just see, they just see, fresh meat and ready to go.
Yeah. We're the boogeyman for the Cowboys, and now we have to go face our demons in San Fran.
I did laugh my ass off the last time these two played in the playoff, and the blocks punt was absolutely hilarious.
That was insane. Yeah, I was at a friend's house for that one as well, and like my friend, she's a huge Packers fan. She was in the bathroom, and the block happened, and we're like screaming, "Get out of the bathroom! You gotta see this! Get!"
Was physically ill, dude. It's always the fluky shit too. You know what I mean? Like the Brandon Bostic muff onside. Yeah, that was brutal.
This one's not going to be as pretty. It's going to rain. Maybe not during the game, but for Saturday night, the Weather Channel has light rain early, and then cloudy, and then showers late. So we'll see 75% chance of rain, 10 to 15 miles an hour wind. So yeah, and unfortunately that favors San Francisco with how they can run the ball. CMC, Elijah Mitchell. I mean, Aaron Jones just had a 100-yard performance against Dallas. So we'll see. It just the explosive plays. I'm not sure if the Packers are going to be able to do that with the rain. But again, the 49ers won't be able to do that either, probably, with their catch and run guys and Ayuk and Samuel. 50.5 is the total. This one, I like the under as well. I was going to go over, but then when I just talked about the rain, I was like, no, under. Jimmy's looking at me like he likes the over as well, just like in the first one. 8:15 on Fox. Sunday, Bucks at the Lions.
Damn it, I thought I was going to be the long
I couldn't believe I was doing this one. Restore the roar.
Nah.
Yeah. The Lions, bro, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get a win in Ford Field. The home field advantage is crazy. They're going to be just as crazy as they were last week. And the Lions are going to host the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game. How about that one?
I think I'd put a bullet in my brain if I had to watch that
game. The NFC runs through the north and the Vikings aren't in it.
I'd want to die. Nightmare. I would genuinely just want to die.
Hey, at least the Bears wouldn't be in it.
Shut up.
But
anyway, Baker Mayfield's going to have the best game of his life.
Why do you say why you're taking the Bucks?
Baker Mayfield, dude. I mean, come on. That man is a vibe. Did you see how much he just badly torched the Eagles? This man is on a absolute tear, and I just believe him.
Like, the Eagles suck. What do you mean?
So, who cares? Who gives a shit? Baker Mayfield.
I chose this for the exact same reasons I chose the Texans. I felt like that there was an outside chance of it, and I wanted to call my shot on this. And I think that one of the most objectively funny outcomes to this entire season, when you look back to what we were thinking at the start, is Baker Mayfield starting an NFC Championship game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we're leaning in.
Hey, remember that what was it? Remember that Madden simulation that had the Chiefs Bucks Super Bowl?
one that had the Falcons winning.
It can happen.
Yeah.
One that had the Falcons winning the Super Bowl.
We're keeping it up. We're keeping it alive. Could you imagine if that actually does take place?
I think the Bucks are the worst team left in the NFC, and specifically at the quarterback position, I think Baker is the worst of the four left. And also, again, the Eagles' defense is trash. Aaron Glenn, the adjustments that they made at halftime against Matthew Stafford last week were just awesome. He shut that team down. Now, they moved it. They moved the ball, but the red zone defense was extraordinary. And Dan Campbell has the guys believing they can do something special, and we're going to keep it going. 49.5 is the total. Now, this one, Jimmy, I'm taking the over. Lions, I think, will be able to score on this Bucks defense.
Baker's getting 45.
No, he's not.
It's going to be Oklahoma. We're going to get Oklahoma Baker.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to get crotch grab Baker Mayfield on the sideline.
Yes. Yep.
When Aiden Hutchinson breaks Baker's ribs on the first play of the game, that's going to be great.
Dude, it's going to be crazy because he's going to play the entire game with broken ribs and still smoke them.
Yep.
Absolutely inspiring performance.
3 p.m. on NBC. Good thing we don't have a playoff game on Peacock this week. Although I do still have a subscription. It's fine.
How far away are we from a Peacock championship game?
Negative. Chiefs. I hate you, Jimmy, so much. So much.
I think the bullshit's going to reign supreme in this game. This is going to be the most bullshit game of the entire weekend.
Patrick Mahomes is the biggest crybaby in the freaking NFL. That's why I'm picking the Bills.
And that's why they're going to win. That's legitimately why they're going to win. Patrick Mahomes is going to cry until that yellow flag comes out of that waistband and onto the field, and he's going to win the game because of it.
Dude,
do feel –
Go.
You just feel that they're going to mess it up. I just have in my gut, I can feel it, like just some kind of primal, been watching football forever. I just feel like the refs are going to just mess something up, and we're going to be talking all about it.
Dude, the call on Christian Wilkins last week was the biggest BS roughing the passer call. And Ed Oliver is not.
Don't worry, the BS will continue.
Ed Oliver is not going to make that mistake because he's going to get there so quick. Mahomes won't have even put his pants on. So, I think again, the Chiefs do not have the receivers. Now, this sets up for Travis Kelce to have a really good game. The injuries at linebacker for Buffalo makes it a tough matchup. And also without Taylor Rapp, which I think that would have been the guy that would have covered Kelce a lot because they weren't going to put a linebacker on him. They would have put a safety. That's going to be tough. But I think they're going to run a lot of either single high, or they're going to run single high, but I think they're going to run cover one. And I think they're just going to man them up because, again, the only guy that can create separation really has been Rashee Rice. And although the Dolphins got hurt on running man, I just don't think you're going to be productive on defense if you run zone against Mahomes because he'll just pick you apart. So I think the best call is to go man for Sean McDermott and just, hope that Rice doesn't beat you.
Especially with the weather, too. It's still expected to be pretty cold. I think you can run man
22 degrees.
A little more efficiently.
22 degrees, 13% chance of rain, 10 to 20 mile an hour winds. So probably a field temperature in the singles.
Yeah, so probably a lot like the Baltimore-Houston game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they also were asking for shovelers once again in Buffalo because they got more snow. They needed to clear the stadium out. So
they're not providing food and drink this time, but they are still paying.
There will still be shirtless men sliding down snow chutes.
As God intended in the city of Buffalo, New York.
Total
Buffalo,
is 40,
man, sexiest fans.
45 and a half. 45 and a half is the total, and I like the under. Buffalo defense. Kansas City defense as well. 6:30 CBS. Sunday night. That's it, gents. Next Friday, it'll be championship weekend, conference championships, AFC, NFC champs going on. I think the AFC plays first next Sunday. So it'll be nice not to have Saturday games for the first time in since like August before preseason started.
Or including college.
Yeah. So I won't know what to do with myself next Saturday. But anyways, we'll have
homework maybe.
Of course, who does that? I don't know what you're talking about. NCAA
Come on, we're
NFL
3 hours. No one
news,
gives a shit.
as well as of course the divisional game. Well, actually, we won't have any recaps because all the games are on the weekend this week. So we'll have the game recaps on Monday's show. But we'll have your conference championship previews as well as any other news. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and X at FAA_bets on X as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok at Football X Non. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all back on Monday.